Fala pessoal, tudo bom com vocês? Natália da de volta para gravar mais um vídeo especialmente para o canal do Elas na Pista. O vídeo de hoje tem um formato que não é muito convencional aqui no canal, vocês não estão tão acostumados assim, mas eu acho que vocês vão gostar, é um pouquinho diferente. Eu decidi trazer aí as últimas 15 voltas do GP de Motegi da Indy de 2008, sim, a corrida que Danica fez história, venceu e se tornou a primeira mulher a ganhar na categoria norte-americana. Apenas um pequeno background antes de vocês poderem aumentar o volume, colocar o fone de ouvido e aproveitar aí bastante a corrida. A prova foi a terceira da temporada 2008 da IndyCar, foi realizada no circuito de Twin Ring Motegi, teve o Hélio Castro Neves como pole position e a Danica largou da sexta colocação. Uma curiosidade é que a prova foi adiada em 22 horas, acontecendo só na manhã do dia seguinte, do dia 20 de abril, por causa das condições da pista, estava chovendo muito e aconteceu só no dia seguinte. Bom, ela que defendia a Andretti, na época era companheira de ninguém menos que Tony Kanaan, ela foi aí, conseguiu a primeira colocação no finalzinho para garantir a vitória. Então é uma corrida bastante legal, que eu acho que vocês vão curtir bastante de assistir. Então senta, aproveita e assiste o vídeo. Mas antes eu vou deixar alguns recados deixa bastante joinha, comenta aqui embaixo, compartilha com todo mundo que gosta do assunto e não deixa de se inscrever, e aqui eu deixo o meu agradecimento especial. Atingimos a barreira de 1000 inscritos, muito obrigada a todos vocês. Se eu tô aqui hoje é por cada um de vocês, vocês fazem esse trabalho valer muito a pena. Mas já falei demais e vou deixar vocês aí com a corrida. Valeu e até a próxima!
Danica Patrick and Helio Castroneves, that pitted latest of all the lead cars on the lead lap. Meanwhile, everybody's gone back up in speed. During the commercial break, we saw some laps at the 190-mile-an-hour range, and nobody wanted to pass anybody. All of a sudden, they're all back at 194 and change.
I think that was in the hope of trying to make some fuel mileage for a few laps to see if they had any chance of making it to the end. They probably got word to say there's not any case of any of those guys up front, in my belief, that it can actually make it all the way through the end without at least one more stop.
Well, there is Tony Kanaan right now in third place, a full 2 seconds behind our race leader of Scott Dixon. Now, Dixon, Weldon, and Kanaan, the top three, all pitted 43 laps ago. The most we've seen any car go this race is 51. The math still doesn't add up.
You know what's important right now also is that once they get the call to come into the pit lane, there's a lot of pressure on the drivers to have a very fast in-lap. That means to come into the pit lane as quickly as possible on the apron, get into your pit box. The pressure is on the crew to just get the car fueled and then send the car off as fast as possible. The pressure then returns to the driver to get back up to speed as fast as possible. And that's what's going to happen here in the next few laps. So the drivers are going to try and stretch a lead out from the car behind. So watch Mike Hall, who's the strategist for Target, Chip Ganassi, looking on board, and he sits there. He knows what's going on. He's playing a game in his mind right now. And it's going to be interesting to see who can put all the pieces of the puzzle together, because the speeds are so even here right now. It might just come down to track position after the pit stop.
This time by, it'll be 11 laps to go, and we're getting word that the 17 of Ryan Hunter-Reay, with 50 laps since his last pit, will be making his stop this time by. So Ryan is going to surrender his top 5 position. There he is. He had made it up to 4th. Gave it a great run, but he is the first that has to blink and come in to top off with just enough fuel to get to the finish line. You can see the scroll across the top. It tells you what pit or what lap they last pitted on, but with less than 10 laps to go now, it's just a matter of who blinks next.
And you see the 10 car of Dan Weldon getting closer to the number 9 target machine of Scott Dixon. And what he's going to try and do is just run as hard as he can, try to catch up, hopefully have a better pit stop than his teammate, or maybe have a better in-lap and out-lap. It'll be interesting to see if they decide to bring in both those cars in the same lap, or change the strategy and one comes in on a different lap to give them more space in the pit boxes, Marty.
Jack, you've got more on Ganassi?
Scott Dixon specifically. Mike Hull just had a conversation with Scott Dixon and reminded him that the fuel consumption right now, he compared it to Chicago. Remember Chicago? He came up short to Dario Franchitti. He said, Scott, you're making the same mileage right now as Dario did in Chicago. But then he also added, looks like we're going to have to come in 2 to 3 laps.
Yeah, you saw Townsend Bell, the 23 car. He also came in. And there is Darren Manning. He has come in. So that means 7 cars still on the lead lap. But it looks like a lot of these cars are going to have to pit. The question will be when. Dixon's working lap 50 now since his last pit stop. So is Dan Weldon and Tony Kanaan, the top 3. Then in 4th place, Ed Carpenter has 5 more laps in hand over those guys. So Carpenter could steal this if he can make it stretch. We've got 6 laps to go. There is the number 20 of Ed Carpenter. He has never won an IndyCar, and he's peeling off.
That is a surprise.
Carpenter, who last pitted just 45 laps to go, is into pit lane.
And
so
remember,
his
he was one of the first ones to come in at the beginning of the race also. They're not making fuel mileage.
So their chance of the podium finish is now over. Jack?
Ed Carpenter pulls down into pit road. Remember, that's a team that was using a lot of downforce. That means they consumed more ethanol. They were looking for a podium finish. But in the meantime, he takes on that precious fuel, but it will be costly in pursuit of a podium finish. In the meantime, Scott Dixon has been called onto pit road. And following him in will be his teammate in the number 10 car. Dixon. Boy, this is slow. This is agonizing for a driver like Scott Dixon. Remember, it's 100 yards, a football field every second. They connect, and all of a sudden, it is less than 2 for a pit stop. And all of a sudden, Scott Dixon is well.
All right, and the other 2 are blinking as well. Dan Weldon and Tony Kanaan are in, and it looks like Elio Castroneves. Remember, he came in and topped off with 5 laps to go. It looks like Elio Castroneves is going to inherit the race lead, as there he is with now 4 laps to go. Jack?
Well, as Dan Weldon pulled off the race, Elio Castroneves has been radioed by Tim Cindric. Only 5 to go. You must make fuel. That's an indication to me, guys. They're going to roll the dice and try and go without pulling onto pit road. This is going to be close.
He is working 48 laps since his last pit stop. There are 3 laps to go this time by. There is 2nd place, Danica Patrick. She, too, on the same fuel strategy as with just about 2.5 laps to go. The question is, who's got it? And here she comes. Does she have enough fuel? She's going to take the high side. And Danica Patrick takes the lead at Motegi.
Castroneves must believe that he's not going to make it to the end unless he's throttling back as much as he is. Has she been able to conserve fuel enough to be able to run this pace and make it to the end? That's going to be the interesting fact right now. Remember, we said when these changes went on, will she be on the podium, maybe standing in the middle? This just might be her day. She's run so strong here before.
1.5 laps to go for Danica Patrick. Remember, at the beginning of this run, she fell back. She was saving fuel. Here she comes. The white flag this time by, and nobody within sight. Look at Miles. 1.5 miles to go for Danica Patrick and the Motorola team. Could history be made at Twin Ring Motegi? Down the backstretch for one more time. Does she have enough fuel to get around the final 2 corners? Into turns 3 and 4. Danica Patrick coming out of 4. And boys, move over. The lady is coming through. Danica Patrick wins at Twin Ring Motegi. Led 32 laps here back at her first trip, and it got everybody buzzing. And if you remember that year, she went on to lead at the Indianapolis 500, and then it all began. When can you win? When can you win? Well, now Danica Patrick has won.
It's going to make that long plane ride home for over, unless she's got tears coming to her eyes. of 14 hours back to the United States a little easier for Danica Patrick.
Ticket sales at Kansas just went up. Jackaroo, it's all yours.
Danica Patrick in tears. Getting the congratulations of her mom, Bev. An emotional time. Danica Patrick, welcome to IndyCar Victory Lane.
Thank you. I feel like I was crying, but it's a long time coming. Finally.
When you take a look at this weekend, and especially in this race, battling an understeer condition.
Congrats, girl. Good job.
Marco Andretti congratulating Danica. Understeer, and then all of a sudden, fuel conservation. How tough for you?
I can't say that the last stint was exactly hard. You know, you're taking it easy and taking care of the car. I did feel like at the end I was, you know, that it was fast and that I was managing to save fuel while still keeping the speed up. And I'd heard, you know, from Kyle that, you know, all I need to beat is Elio. So when I saw him, I knew I had been kind of saving a little extra throughout the stint, and that, you know, I knew he was the one to beat, and I didn't want to make the mistake of, you know, not pushing really hard to get by him. So it managed to be a little bit safer probably than I saw. But thank you to Andretti Green. Thank you to, you know, all my teammates, and finally.
You know what? I got to ask you, when are you going to win again?
I hope next weekend.